And so this guy posted a thread, and he said, hey, I'm applying to Startup Chile. What should I do? Here's my pitch deck. And I gave him a page and a half of thoughts, right? That was what it was. And that led to, I'm now the CTO of the startup, and I'm getting to go to South America and like get international attention. This opportunity just fell on my lap, and it all came from a single message board post with some random thoughts, right? So, and to trace that all back, I mean, 2 years ago, I wasn't doing any of this at all. I was just like reading Hacker News and reading TechCrunch and not doing anything. And I met Israel, who's not here in the room, but a lot of you know Israel, and he said, hey, let's get something going here. And that's when all this started from. All these friendships emerge, all these connections happen. So basically just saying, you know, wherever we're at on the entrepreneurial journey, if you have an opportunity to give back to someone else. You know, even if you're just a beginner, you've already learned some lessons that somebody else hasn't learned yet. So flip it around, give back as much as you can. You know, post on message boards when people ask for advice, and help your friends. Don't be pushy, but help your friends when you can, and it'll come back. So that's my speech. And I hope to stay updated with everybody and stay tuned in. If you want to follow along with my adventures, you can follow me on Twitter. I post a lot of bad jokes and occasionally cool links. So I'm Dylanized on Twitter. So what's happening with the group? Well, this dovetails with kind of an effort that a lot of us have been feeling that the group needs to grow beyond just kind of the few people at the core that we're bringing it. So we had a really good planning session the other day. Who was here for planning session? Anybody? Anybody? Yeah, look at all that. That's right. And we got a few core people that are stepping up to take over different roles. Let's see, Kevin, you want to stand up? And Drew, if you're around, and Ty is going to help us with video, and John has been helping out since the beginning. You know, kind of being running a defense for us with some of the things around town. And so there's a few other people as well, but they've stepped up to take over different pieces. So we should have our fundraising under control. Ty's going to be posting Google Hangouts of the events, and tonight's our first try for that. So if it works, then we'll have a YouTube channel. And Ben's going to take over as the lead organizer. So I'm going to turn over to him for a minute, and I'll say a couple of words.
Hey everybody, I'm Ben. I don't really have anything prepared for this. Basically, we're going to be spending the next month or two really solidifying what we. Sorry, can everybody hear me now? All right. So basically, we're going to spend the next couple of months really solidifying what we have here. I mean, we have a great group of people. We've got almost 600 people in the meetup group. Like you said, we've got like 60% of our people every single meetup are new people, and we also have a lot of people that come back. So we want to keep that energy going. We're trying to spread out the leadership a little bit, because right now, basically, it's been Dylan's full-time job. It's really, really, really tough for any one person to take on. So my goal is going to be to sort of share the response organizer, and then let you guys do all the work. But we had a really great meetup group. I think we had about 15 or 20 people in the room the other night. We love people that volunteer. If you've got a couple hours a week that you don't know what to do with, and you want to put it into a really awesome project, I don't have a cool Twitter handle, but mine's X9, AXD9.
Cool. It's short.
It's really
for that tomorrow, but it's not working yet, but it should be plus.startlouis.com. We'll redirect to that starting tomorrow, hopefully. And basically, if you want to get involved a little deeper or help out with anything, go in there. Specifically, we could use a hand with anybody that wants to just own the social media. That's something that's just never gotten done, at a very high level. I have a half-built website done. It's a WordPress theme. It has some content in there, but it needs some love. So if anybody wants to get involved with a little bit of website work, that's something that could be helped with. And probably, and also if you just see anything that you think should be done, but it's not being done, then just step up with the idea. One thing we're talking about maybe doing is setting up a parallel meetup group called like StartLouis Academy that is like learning sessions that anybody could just post a learning session. Say you're good at, say, Ruby on Rails. You can just post a learning session, Ruby on Rails class, $20, you know, and Lab 1500 has stepped up to actually host those meetings. So could be a cool little side project there if anybody wants to coordinate that. A few other things. So, all right, without further ado, let's get Leonard up here. This is my friend Leonard. He's going to talk about his Kickstarter last year, which I thought was really well done. We know each other from Cherokee Street. So, man.
All right. First, let me say that I am the epitome of an artist, introverted type. I want to thank Dylan for having me come up here and talk for the first time in public. So, you know, bear with me as I get through this. I'm a little nervous. I didn't have enough beer, so I think the most important thing that I think I've learned from my Kickstarter was just that people care, right? And people are interested in interesting projects. I know that sounds silly. People are interested in interesting projects. These are real people sitting at home, going through this site, and looking at your project, and looking at your story, and making a decision to give their hard-earned cash to what you're working on. So one of the biggest things I focused on was telling our story. I wanted people to understand that we're real. We work 9-to-5 jobs. This project that we're putting up is a dream. It's not just some flash in the pan, get rich quick scheme. It's something that is coming from the gut. This is real for us. And during that process, we ran into two different types of backers, right? We ran into backers who came to the site, they read our story, and they were extremely interested in supporting us because of our story. Then I got people, which everyone's going to run into, they just come to your site, they come to your Kickstarter project, they don't do much reading, they look at the rewards, they look at the prizes, and they submit money just to get rewards. And we dealt with that, and it hurt our morale when we first got started, right? Simply because we had these people who clearly, you know, actually, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let me put it like this. When we first started our project, we were getting apparel equipment. It's a dye sublimation printer in order to move our apparel operation to the next level. And during that process, the very first thing that happened was our printer showed up and it was damaged and shit. So let me be frank, we were completely broke before the project started off. So we didn't have any cash to replace anything. There was no rich uncle I could call to help me replace this cash. So immediately we're in the red, right? So we go to our page and we start explaining to backers what happened, and we get this wave of support from a certain amount of people. Keep it going. It doesn't matter. We still here to support you. Keep it moving. Keep going. Then we got these other group backers, which everybody's going to run into, which they were immediately irate. They assumed that we took the money, that we were buying, I guess, cocaine or paying bills or whatever. But like, I just want to express to you, when you put your project up, make it clear. Make your story clear. If you're in a dire situation, people want to hear that. If you feel like this is one of your last opportunities to make your dream happen, make that clear. I think that's the only reason we got our project funded, was because people came to our project and they understood. They were people who really interested were able to come to our project and really feel the emotion, and that it was dire. That we felt like if we didn't get this project funded, we started at square one.
I hate to appear ignorant, but what was your project?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just kind of assumed everybody knew. But again, my project was I run a creative collective. It's me and a friend of mine. We started the project. The creative collective, and now we have about 12 loose members throughout the U.S. and a few members in Cape Town, South Africa. So we launched our project with the intentions of getting dial sublimation equipment, which is printing equipment to do a curl. That's more or less what our project was about.
What was it called?
It was called Live and Let Die, DYE. I guess right now, I'll just kind of start running down some of the lessons we learned, right? So as I was saying earlier before, like losing cash to a broken printer, and then shortly after we went through that, we went through red tape and got our printer replaced after 3 weeks of red tape. One of our local suppliers, he went out of business, which means that our shirts went up. The only other person I could find went up $1.25, which is significant if you don't have any money and you don't have a rich uncle to replace that cash, right? So now we're even further in the red. So, like, I guess with that part, what I learned was don't be afraid to communicate with your backers what's going on. If something goes wrong, immediately let them know. You know, people were receptive, people understood that. I think I said this before, but you know, I think one of the most important things again is your story. Like we actually put our project up, and it took us 6 months to hit that launch button because we just kept going back, looking at it, and reading it over, looking at the video, just feeling like people are not going to get it. It's not going to touch a gut. I wanted someone to read it and feel like I feel like I need to call friends and get my rich uncle to donate to this project.
Hello.
You know what I mean? But one of the biggest things I think we made a mistake with was we didn't prepare a PR campaign further enough in advance. So like when you're sending out, for people who are new to this, which we were, you're sending out press releases to certain publications. There's deadlines for that. You know what I mean? There's deadlines for that. So like we just made a mistake that we didn't send out a lot of our PR stuff well in advance. So you know, we set up and we made all these plans, we made this PR campaign, and then sent it out, and no one responded, or people couldn't respond simply because they had missed their deadline. You know, we were beyond their deadline. This sounds bad, but I think one of the hard lessons I learned was don't count on friends and family to spread the word. That sounds harsh, but don't count on that. Like, come up with a serious game plan, and anytime you see anyone engaging with your project, stay on. You know what I mean? And that's what I did. We put up a Facebook event page, and the second I saw anyone like anything or reshare anything, thank you. We appreciate you. Here's where you can see more. Tell your friends. Like, and one of the hardest things that we came to terms with was we had, I guess, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I guess about 150 so backers or so. And 30 of those were from St. Louis. Most of these people are from all over the world. So again, you know, like, we really had convinced ourselves that a number of our friends, our family, people in our circle were going to help move the project along. And that wasn't the case. So if that's part of your game plan, I would say put it at the bottom of your list. I think I kind of mentioned this before, but make backups for your supplier or manufacturer depending on your project. Like I said, we made plans 6 months, and then 6 months later when we launched the project and we were funded, our t-shirt supplier was out of business. So now we're in the red even further. So make a backup to your backup plan. One of the this sounds like a silly slip, but we made the silly mistake of not accounting for taxes and not accounting for any errors in shipping, right? So we would put ourselves in a situation where we would pay for things, and things would be late in the mail, or just prepare yourself. I guess I keep going on this, but prepare yourself for errors. We didn't do that. That's what it expressed itself. Like, things will go wrong, and just express to backers what happened, and keep moving. don't be afraid to be creative with the way you promote your project. We did things like, there's no cops in the building, right? But we did a little spray painting around the city in certain parts. You know, we did some illegal flyering. We did, I mean, be bold, man. I really truly believe that's the reason we got the project. I feel like people in the city and a number of people in our circle, they helped spread the word to a certain extent simply because they saw how passionate we were about it. There were flyers all over the city, posters all over the city. You, again, spray paint certain places of the city. I don't want to say word, but I think the most important lesson I think that we got out of it, again, I guess I already said this, but people want to support your project. You know what I mean? I feel it's like PixelPress. I'm kind of honored to be up next to these guys. You know what I mean? This $100,000 project. I raised a measly $8 grand compared to that. And it's one of those type of things like, I don't know how to explain that, but yeah, I don't know how to explain that. But yeah. Again, I didn't have enough beer. I'm a little nervous. So, yeah, there we go. Let me get a question.
Did you have any scammers that tried to take advantage of doing all this stuff online? And if so, how did you get them?
Absolutely, man. I just asked pertinent questions, and actually, we still get them today, man. We get emails all the time to our Kickstarter project of scammers. Mostly for us because we're an apparel company, is asking us to send free stock. So just do your research on people before you do any business with them, man. So somebody sends us an email asking for stock. Where's your website? What's your address? Because you're overseas, can you send me your business information? I appreciate it. I think the easiest thing is just if anybody has any more questions, let's take it that route.
Did you do a video yourself, or how did you? What was your Kickstarter like? Was it just images and text?
Actually, we as I said, we started a creative collective. So for the years before that, we had been throwing a number of art events and things of that nature. So we just kind of did a video that expressed who we are. We showed us in the studio working on prints. We showed us quick footage of some of our art events. My co-founder, my partner, he's a musician, showed him on stage performing. Like, we just really did our best to let people see who we are as a whole.
How long was it?
I don't remember talking about it, but very short. I could play it if you.
All right.
Yeah.
What were your pricing tiers for donations? How did you choose the pricing tiers, and what were your giveaways?
Pricing tiers again. It's,
there.
yeah, about 10. I mean, we chose them simply. Honestly, we put them together with the intentions of trying to make something that was interesting. I really can't get a good answer than that. We thought these would be the most compelling packages. We had everything from free apparel to subscriptions to our apparel to one-of-a-kind pieces of artwork. You see in the very last back, I even offered to make people dinner. Paint your house and then make you dinner. I didn't have to make any dinner. No one gave us $3 grand, but it worked out.
Were any of your donation level or contribution levels not profitable? Does that make sense? Like, you spent more on them than if you had $50 for 20 T-shirts, did you ever run into that as a cash flow it or something like that?
Only after our errors, I would say that. Maybe our 40, which was probably the most popular. Yeah. And simply again because our price for apparel went up. Yeah. In just that short amount of time, 6 months. So what else?
to come off what he said. Did you sell stock, or did you do this as loans, or how did you, present this to the investors, if you would? Did they get a part of your company, or what did you do there?
The follow-up question: who here has not been to Kickstarter.com? All right, maybe talk about a little bit how Kickstarter works and with the backers and stuff.
Okay. Well, as you were saying, Kickstarter actually is in return for reward, in return for a backer's support, you give them rewards. So for us, $40. One of our tees was a $40 limited T-shirt, which meant that you got that T-shirt, one of our logo tees, a free poster, and a few prints in exchange for your support. So I mean, that's more or less how our Kickstarter works.
So, yeah, no, I got follow-up. You don't need monitoring, law, regulations, wide open.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Just how can you do it legally? Is there any issues to run into you to start doing it?
That may be a question for Kickstarter, but to my understanding, I think.
Yeah. So Kickstarter is it's what's known as a crowdfunding website. Yeah. So when you donate money to a project, that money is put into escrow, and it actually only gets transferred over if the goal is met. So for his, it was $8,000, right? So if they got enough people that were willing to chip in, he totaled $8,000, he would get his money. Otherwise, everybody would keep their money. And then the rewards are just there to provide kind of gateways and encourage people to donate more. It's a new funding model. It's becoming more and more popular. Kickstarter is a big one, but there's also like Indiegogo and there's a
You can't get stock, right?
no.
Is that still true with the new FTC?
That's a separate. Yeah, I mean, there's legislation going through, and I can
Well,
find you guys.
FTC just came down last week and said, yeah.
There's a lot of filings
I can
involved
talk
with
to
it
you guys more
now.
about it later. It's kind of a discussion outside the scope of
The only thing that's St. Louis, Missouri, United States, offshore is easier.
that headquarters. That I don't know.
There's limitations to what countries you are able to run a Kickstarter in.
St. Louis is yeah. What made you decide to go with Kickstarter as opposed to one of the other crowdfunding formats?
Yeah, for us, it was because it was all or nothing. I really felt like our story lent itself to the concept of, if we don't get every penny of this, we don't get anything. So I felt like the tension was a great selling point for our type of project.
Okay. When did you hit the goal? How much time left?
We could go with a few hours left, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember those last 2 days.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking, man. It was like, we got $7,000 here. If I don't get the $7,000, I'm going. But yeah, man, we got it in the last few minutes. It was great, man. It was a great feeling. It was very encouraging, man. It was a year ago, and we've been going strong. Things have been moving at an amazing pace since then. And not just because of the backers, because I think it's people seeing an entire community support us did wonders for our brand, did wonders for people understanding where we're about.
What's that new deal you got? I heard about the other day.
What do you mean?
New partnership or something?
Well, we actually got two new really great contracts. So we started moving our apparel into retail in the UK just about 6 months ago. We got a decent contract with USC, which has over 300 stores out there. So we got that contract, and we'll start being in stores out there in January. And then we just got a great contract with a showroom in Cape Town, South Africa. And again, a lot of it, not just because we got back, man. I think it's just because, people love to see that people support the project. The people are coming to the Kickstarter page 6 months later, saying that, hey, I was going through here and I saw your project and it looks great. Clearly, people support you. I'd like to learn more. And it's pretty much every contract we got came about.
So you had 174 backers. Have you gone back to them, or I guess two-part question? Do you have a lot of communications with your old backers still? And then the other part is, how many of your backers offered things other than like monetary, like connections or opening doors and that kind of stuff?
Honestly, not many. And far as relationships, absolutely, man. Quite a few still, support us on social media. I've actually, the contract I got from Cape Town was actually from a backer sending my information to someone.
Wow.
So it's lost. I lost my guy. Where are you?
What now that you moved past the Kickstarter phase, what's your biggest what keeps you up at night these days?
Capital.
Yeah.
So one of the hard things I had to learn going into retail is most of my contracts don't come on 30 to 90-day contracts. So meaning that all the apparel that I'm trying to get to stores, I had to come up with the capital up front. So capital, man. Right now I have more interest in our work than I have money. So money. So anybody wants to do that?
I want to ask, so you got the $8,000 goal, and then you had this issue over that ISO printer. If that hadn't worked out, I mean, if the worst had happened and you couldn't do maybe these T-shirt rewards or whatever they were, what would have been, like, would you have been liable? Could you have been sued by these people if you didn't get the shirts, or how does Kickstarter?
No, and actually, not at all. I actually got really lucky to meet with one of the art directors from Kickstarter, which was in St. Louis a few weeks ago. And I just wanted to express her. This kind of goes back to the two different types of backers. So some people, they go to Kickstarter and they read the whole FAQ and they learn what Kickstarter is about. Kickstarter is about donating to creative projects. So, as I was expressing to her, there really needs to be some type of way to make it clear to backers that you're not coming here to buy things. You're coming here to make a donation. And the project, in return, wants to give you these things if things go correctly. So no, man, you're not liable. But give people your stuff. Your brand will suffer. So that could be worse than losing.
Was this your full-time pursuit before you started your Kickstarter, and is it after, now that it's over? Or do you have like another thing that you also do?
No, this is full time for me now. At the time, it was it had been full time, and things just went wrong. As I was explaining to my new friend over here, man, I come from graphic design business, and many people here may tell you it's a bit of a dystopia, man. It's a hard road, even for the best design. And so we have really put ourselves in a situation where things were falling apart, and this was one of our last resorts. So, it was full time, but up to a point, because I got to pay bills. So I was weighing tables, working catering, restoring windows, whatever, using pay bills. Anyone else? Anybody else? I feel like this is really short.
What's your Twitter handle?
Civilate, one word, CIVILAP.
Can you do it again?
You mean Kickstarter? Maybe really sometime in the future, distant future, but not anytime soon.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the Cape Town, South Africa project?
Oh, absolutely. So I partnered with an artist out there who runs a site called Creative Nestlings. His name is Creative Nestlings, right? His name is Dylan Phiro, Phiri. And he runs a showroom called Boston Society. And that's more or less what we got. Is Boston Society, Creative Nestlings, and Dylan Phiro. But I mean, we were actually really lucky to get quite a bit of PR in Cape Town before this contract came through. So I guess another thing I forgot about was when we were doing our PR letters and everything, again, St. Louis showed no love. I don't mean, lack of a good term, but Cape Town showed an amazing amount of interest and love for the project, man. We got a number of websites and a number of small print papers out there that did ads for us for free. So I mean, don't be bold. I definitely did not think a number of the places in Cape Town were going to support a small project in St. Louis. And I definitely thought the Riverfront Times or a number of, I could run off a list, a number of St. Louis publications would have shown a little more interest. But you just never know.
Cool. All right, let's give him a big round of applause, right? first of all, a pretty good speaker, right?
Yeah.
How about the design, right? Hey, give it to the design. That's great. So, okay, we'll take 2 minutes and get Robin situated with his laptop. And so if you got to run to the bathroom, if there's any beer left, do it up. And then we're going to hear about PixelPress. So, get ready.
Yeah, bathrooms are around the corner. Take your first call.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi password is be gigantic. Be gigantic.
Which T-Rex is it?
Any of whatever's strongest.
I recommend not using T-Rex 6. So what's your take on this?
I mean, I think good reactions.
That's the gist I got.
I've heard it.
Well, see, that's why I'm right. Well, you used to have, you had to have multiple visitors, and you had to have this, when you have you won't have to have it all way.
She's like squirming and cuddling. It's fine.
It's a Japanese thing. If you start saying dividends, you're right, 10,000 checks. Yeah. You have to have like
It's finding the special business district. Yeah, so the guy who owns it. Like rather than having this like guy who just like runs the and like
Everyone's allowed. And I was thinking about wearing this today, but I just
PixelPress. What? Anybody here hear PixelPress? What's going on? So my world, it was pretty deafening. It was pretty awesome. It was everywhere. Anybody here know Robin before PixelPress? Familiar with his work? Yeah? Yeah, he's got a little fan club going. That's great. As you well should. This is going to be great. So let's welcome to the stage Robin Rath. Hey guys, honored to be here. Lots of familiar faces. What's up, John? Down here.
Let's go.
Not you.
Oh.
Thanks to Leonard. Yeah. All right. I really appreciated the part where you got hung up when you were talking about, like, Kickstarter is an emotional process for sure. So doing it on any scale at all is it's near to your heart. So I definitely got going with that. That's what you're thinking. So again, my name is Robin. I've lived here in St. Louis for 14 years now. I went to St. Louis University. I grew up in Southern Illinois. I've been doing website design, development, marketing for that entire time period. Built websites in high school, and you know that whole experience kind of led me to a lot of the success that I had with Kickstarter was because it's a very hands-on approach, you know, a very hands-on experience. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on kind of where I come from. I've, you know, recently worked in the mobile development industry for the last 5 or 6 years, and have a lot of experience with that. So a lot of that kind of experience led to this project. So PixelPress was an idea that, you know, started when I was 6, literally. My friends and I would draw video games when we were growing up. We played them all the time. We would draw them. Kids draw all the time. This is a story that we would actually talk about, you know, almost yearly throughout the last, you know, 30 years of my life. Just we're talking about stories, talking about the fun things you did as a kid. So this last Christmas, when we got together, we were talking about it, and I was talking with some other friends about, you know, capturing pictures with computers and turning them into handwritten text and all that type of stuff. It kind of clicked for me, just the idea of taking this process of drawing a video game and making it come to life. So I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself here. I want to talk to you guys about the idea. Some stuff's running off the page, but essentially, let me fix this real quick. Maybe. The process here is essentially the idea behind the Kickstarter and the company that we're building is taking a sheet of paper that you print out on your printer at home. It's a piece of grid paper. You're drawing shapes that resemble
video game concepts like jumping over platforms and dying in fire pits and hitting spikes and all those types of things. You're using a mobile device to take a picture of that sheet of paper, and it turns it into a video game that you can play. So that's the real magic of PixelPress. That's the idea that we clung on to once we kind of came up with it in our heads, and that's what we ran with throughout the last 6 months that led us to the end of Kickstarter about a month ago. So for me as a creative, it's hard to work through a developer to reach value on the other side. There's a lot of iteration of jumping back and forth over a wall, and obviously that's there's tension that's created there in terms of understanding the challenge of building something and then understanding the vision of the creative. So for me, this project was about something that I love, video games, and getting myself as a creative closer to that. How can that be done? So this project's about user-generated content, creating interactive experiences, and kind of getting the code out of the way so that while within a walled garden in terms of like I can only create so much because I'm not a developer, I can still create something and make it my vision. So this isn't about anti-developers for sure. It's just about working with developers to create a cool tool that lets other people kind of do things. So if you look at YouTube and Vimeo, those are tools that help you get closer to creating video content without a video producer involved. If you look at WordPress and Tumblr, and even Twitter as a short-form blog platform, those tools get you closer to creating content without getting a developer involved. This product is about getting you closer to creating interactive content without getting a developer involved. So that's the larger vision. PixelPress is a game, but we're also developing a platform for this concept. So that's that idea. So this is a video that we put together. This is our official Kickstarter video, if you will, but it was also our it's also what we use to get people excited about the concept before we ever decided to go on Kickstarter. So if you're thinking about doing a Kickstarter or a project or anything, like maybe you want to even think about getting people excited before you go the Kickstarter route. And a video is a great way to do that because you can basically do what a web page does in a minute. So audio. Bill, any ideas on audio?
We're pretty sophisticated.
I'm like on this drawing thing, and I can't do it. All right, so that video is about 1.5 minutes. There was no actual code that went into anything that you just saw. Everything was created with Photoshop and with Final Cut Pro and all those types of things. So it was all stuff that everyone in this room has the capability to do to create that kind of promo concept video. I'm going to run back to my presentation. So a lot of people ask about the technology behind it. I think it's probably good to just cover off on that a little bit. basically, what we're using is a technology called optical character recognition. It's a technology that's not new at all. It's been around for 20 or 30 years now. There's a lot of open source tools out there that do this, but what we're doing is just applying it to a new industry. So we're using something that's, we're using a computer to understand lines and how they're formed on a piece of paper and turning that into digital format, and then applying that to a physics engine around a video game that can then be customized. So there's not anything super, special about the core technology behind it. It's just a matter of how we're kind of mashing all those things up. So you draw on a piece of paper, take a picture, the device that you're working with, whatever it is. In our first iteration, it would be an iPhone, an Android device. It processes that image, and then you're able to customize the look and feel of that, and then ultimately upload that to a community. So that's where the real power of this comes into play, in that it's not just a video game you can play yourself, it's a video game that you can share with anybody. They can play it, they can give you feedback, you can see how many times they played it, so it's kind of like a YouTube scenario where you get excited when someone's played level 5,000 times, whatever it is. That's where it's really, taking off for people, in that it's not just about creating, but it's about creating and sharing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the game Minecraft, but it's a successful game that piggybacks on a lot of these concepts. It's about creating unique things and sharing with your friends on YouTube. So those are concepts that work really well for gaming. It's kind of the advent of a new industry of gaming, this integration with the internet, social, and all those types of things. So those are things that people really get excited about. It's like, I want to create, but I also want to share, which is actually kind of one cool thing about Kickstarter too. Kickstarter is about creating and sharing. Etsy is about creating and sharing. Vimeo is about creating and sharing. So this is kind of a society hipster movement maybe we're going through to some degree, but it's really cool to have access to such cool technology to do all these things. So right now we're focusing on platformer style games like Mario, Sonic, all those types of things, but the product will eventually migrate into other game genres. So side-scrolling adventures like Mario and Zelda, top-down adventures like Zelda, isometric racing games, drawing your own racetracks, puzzles, tower defense games, which are really popular on mobile. Those are all things that can incorporate this technology. And I mean, you can even incorporate the technology into Madden football, and it's not about drawing, Madden football, it's just about drawing the play. So there's a lot of things that, people have got really excited about that kind of help fuel the larger picture, and, of course, the Kickstarter too. So I'm here today to talk about Kickstarter. As I'm transitioning between slides, or really at any time, if you guys have questions, please ask. I know I get frustrated when I have to wait till the end, so please just chime in if you have questions. So my role in the last 5 or 6 years has been as a product manager, and what that means to me in the technology field is someone who understands multiple disciplines, but also the financial side of running a product. And for me, something that I hold on to tightly is I came from a UX and UI background, and I think in the technology space, like understanding the user experience is very important to building a successful product. So that's what PixelPress is all about. It's about user experience, and everything that I did and everything that I presented kind of came from that place. So I think a developer might have a different perspective on it. I just wanted to kind of tell you guys my perspective. Yeah, question?
Quick question on that. How did you find the right co-founder, or how did you build the right team?
Yeah, the team kind of naturally progressed as I created that video. The video was created. My dad filmed it, and I hired a friend. I paid him $500 to edit it for me, just because I knew I couldn't do a good job, and I created all the assets. And once that video was in place and I would share it with people, they would kind of like magnetize toward it, or they would just tell me they don't get it at all, which was totally fine. So yeah, that happened through a combination of passion and interest and skill set. I had access to a lot of different people, but I wanted to get people on board that really cared about the project and understood it. So yeah, it was a process along with everything else.
Sorry, quick follow-up question. Yeah. Were you afraid at any level to share your idea without it actually being well-made?
Yeah, from a legal perspective, no. Probably, foolishly, but like, I don't really subscribe to that, and I've read a lot of things that say, just get it out there, and I decided to believe those articles and just got it out there. From a Public standpoint, yeah, I mean, one thing that happened early on in the project, like 2 months before our Kickstarter, was I started sharing it with the press, and they got really excited about it and wanted to write about it immediately, and I realized that there was some momentum going there that I needed to optimize from a launch perspective. So I think it's always circumstantial, but yeah, there's a lot of questions around that. Yep.
How much of the underlying technology you mentioned with VR, how much of that you had worked out before the campaign?
I had talked with a lot of developers about. Oh, the question is, how much of the technology piece did you have worked out before you did this crazy thing on Kickstarter? We did do a lot of due diligence on, like, is it possible? We didn't actually build a prototype, but we had looked at a lot of the OCR stuff out there. That was important. I definitely didn't want to risk my personal reputation on saying I could do something that I couldn't. So, but at the same time, like, we didn't want to waste a lot of time too, because it felt like, people would be coming onto this kind of concept quickly, especially since we had a web app website out there that some people were starting to access. That was before we ever decided to do Kickstarter. It was kind of like we just put it out there. So we figured that out quickly. Why did I choose Kickstarter? A ton of people ask this. This isn't a question of like whether I chose Kickstarter versus Indiegogo. This is just a question of why did you choose crowdfunding? And one, because I didn't have a lot of personal capital to turn this into a real business, which was always the goal. So obviously there was value in raising the money. But it was more of a marketing play. If you guys subscribe to minimum viable product concept, MVP, and the idea of like building as little as possible for as little amount of money as possible before you move on to the next step, I feel like Kickstarter is very much an MVP platform if you're trying to develop a product, because it's going to help you validate an interest level from your customers. So we used it as a marketing / MVP validation model to move forward on to the next step. As far as like Kickstarter versus Indiegogo, which is another crowdsourced funding platform, Kickstarter just by far and away, in my opinion, has the most traction and the most users. We got 40% of the money we got was from Kickstarter browsers, not like marketing and so just people just on Kickstarter naturally. I don't think you're going to have the same experience with other platforms. The last question I get is like, why didn't you just go to an angel or VC right out the gate? Because it's a great idea. I think it's cool. My thought process was like, if I can get one guy to give me $100,000, like, what's the true value in that versus what we got 2,500 people to give us, X amount of dollars. So we felt really good about our idea, and like we wanted to like get it out there to the world. So that's some of the thought process. I think other people might have different reasons to make decisions, but that was ours. One thing I think you want to think about before using Kickstarter is, do you have a project or a product? And I think this is a little bit harder to find in some cases, but I think there's a ton of people out there that are raising $1,000 to like $10,000 for projects, and I think Kickstarter is awesome for that. And I'm not saying just because you're only raising $10,000 you don't have a product, but the clarification I'm trying to make here is like everything I'm telling you comes from a product perspective. If you're trying to build a product in a company, if you're trying to do a project, you don't need to spend every hour of every day on it necessarily. But if you're trying to raise a lot of money and build a product and kind of get that out there, I think you can take a different perspective. So I encourage everyone in here to raise $500 to create a photo book of St. Louis. But if you're trying to raise $50,000 to create something more complex, you need to consider a lot more that goes into it. And in Lenard's case, I think you guys were trying to raise $8,000 is a serious amount of money to raise on Kickstarter. You guys put your full time into it, and I think that it takes that amount of time to really raise any significant capital. But if your 18-year-old son is wanting to raise $1,000 for some idea, I think it's worth doing just for the experience. So products that I see, from my perspective, do well on Kickstarter are first physical goods seem to have far and away benefit over non-physical goods, so digital goods. The reason is because I think people, whether it's a donation platform or not, people look at Kickstarter as a pre-sale platform. And if they can understand the cost of something from a reward perspective in relation to something that they get, then it's a lot easier for them to make that jump. So Ouya, which is a Android-based home video game platform for playing video games on your TV. So it's like Apple TV with a controller. They sold the hell out of these things, $9 million, because people understood what getting $100 meant. They're getting a piece of hardware. Whereas for us, we weren't going to charge 99 cents, for every copy, that's for sure. We charged $10 because we're saying, hey, we're creating value for you. We think it's worth $10, but still people have a hard time understanding, especially with what Apple's done with skewing prices of digital goods and all that, like just where to lie there. So I think first and foremost is like in the case of smart betting, I think they have an advantage over a digital good because people can understand and put a value on a physical product. And I think that relates to both your giveaway prices, so your reward tiers, and then also your overall goal. You need to make that consideration. So the next one is about network. Double Fine Adventures is created by, help me, John.
Tim Schafer?
Yeah, sorry, totally brain fart.
I thought he was talking to the other John.
The other John could help me with that. So Tim Schafer is the guy behind LucasArts games, like the Indiana Jones and the Monkey Islands and all those. And he's done a couple Kickstarter projects, and I'm not here to talk about whether I think rich people should be doing Kickstarter. That's not my point. I'm talking about network traction and connections, like whether it's through your business or you personally. I would consider myself as someone that had no network whatsoever, maybe a little bit in St. Louis, but that made it very difficult for us to be successful, not having a network or a company name to tie to this. Literally, our company was formed, 2 days ago? So yeah, it's all come together pretty quickly. So network's really important, I think, and that's going to allow you to be successful instead of have to fight for it, we had to do.
On that point, you said that without a network, which network of your own reputation or account, but you still were able to get 2,500 backers.
Yep.
What are some things you did that you think contributed to that success?
That's kind of what the presentation is about. I mean, in general, it's like, how did I do it with no network? So I'm going to get into some of the things that maybe worked or didn't. I think the point here I'm trying to make is like, if you're comparing yourself to the $5 million that Double Fine Adventures raised on the game, like, there's a reason they raised $5 million, because they had the network, they had the name, all those types of things. So, yeah, when we were doing our research, we looked at projects across the board. We're like, there's 20 projects that raised $2 million. We should be able to do that. Well, we had an amazing idea, and we still were only able to raise, 110,000. So I think it says something about just setting expectations correctly. And I'll talk a little bit about why we set our goal where we did, and if we should have done that in a bit. And then the final one is like super novel ideas, get people talking. So that's where this is the box that we did good on, is that people just talked about it. I think Dylan said like his Twitter was going nuts about it for a long time. People got super excited about this. The press got super excited about it. Kids, adults, all over the board. I mean, even like, I think Rob went to San Diego and he started telling like the 70-year-old couple at the hotel about it, and they were like getting excited about it. And I think they might have ended up backing it, just because like everyone can relate to, whether it's their kids or whatever. So I think we got totally lucky in that sense. Like, and that was a big part of the success. Was just like we had a really cool idea that people could understand quickly and run with it in their minds, and therefore then run with actually giving money to support it. So, can this be done as a one-man show? Whether you're in a company or you're by yourself, like, make sure if you're doing it for a company that they're letting you work on it full-time for the entire time. And this is on the product side of Kickstarter, not the project. So I'm not trying to say you're trying to do something small, but if you're trying to do something big and you really want it to happen, like it needs to be full-time. And then still you can't do it yourself, so you need help. So this is Rob and Josh. This is us at E3 last month with Pac-Man. Had probably 12 people that I would say were integral to this project in various capacities that worked, and some people worked at different scales. But yeah, we took it seriously, and I would say it's definitely not something you can do by yourself, even if you are working on it.
Real quick on that, was there a science behind the team, the guys you picked, or are they just friends, or how did you?
So Josh on the right, I grew up with him. He was the one drawing with me when I was 6, so there was definitely a reason there. Rob and Daniel, who were there, can you guys raise your hands? Please, or Josh, raise your hand. Rob and Daniel worked with me on a game that we built for the iPhone in 2009 called Radio 50. They did the art and the music and some of the development direction on that project. So we have a past working experience. So yeah, that's how that came to be. And then we've got other people on the team that have been involved in my life in other capacities along the way. So yeah, just be realistic about how much time it's going to take. I definitely, at the time, told my work that I was going to be needing to take off 2 days a week, and ended up just taking off the entire time. Yeah, it's like, if you want it to happen, I mean, you need to. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, 24/7.
Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's definitely like, I think I've been quoted as saying it's like social media on crack. So, I don't know why my thing's getting thrown off, but change plans here.
Looks okay like that.
Can you read it okay, or? It's not important. You guys don't need to read it. Hear me. This is a little text heavy too. I think I have a problem with that. It's like a syndrome. So one of the tangible, and I'm not even sure what I mean by that, but having intangible slides, like the more tangible things you should consider that you might not hear anywhere else. Giveaway budget, like I'm very much like a numbers guy, and I ran the numbers a million times, but ultimately the giveaways after we converted are still going to cost like 50% more than we thought, just like when you consider shipping and taxes, like shipping to you, shipping back out, international, all that type of stuff. So if you've got a big goal with a lot of backers, one thing costing $1 more than you thought could affect how much you have to pay by $1,000. So just really consider that and make sure you build in a buffer to make sure that you're not like running it down last dime to where you're screwed if you can't get it. Stretch goals. So the concept of stretch goals are that if you exceed your goal, so you set a goal for $50,000, if you exceed your goal, you'll promise something in addition and on top of that. There's a lot of things we did, wrong about stretch goals, but the biggest thing we did wrong about stretch goals is when we launched our Kickstarter, we had them all on the page. Like we should have added them as we got closer to that goal, just so you don't have to deal with the questions about it. I mean, you're going to get questions about everything. You don't want questions about if you double your goal and you're going to, come paint my house, what's the logistics of that? You just don't want those challenges. So one of our stretch goals was, I guess I'll use the Android one, for example. Like we promised to do Android at X amount, and there was all sorts of drama around what that meant and when it was going to happen and how much it was going to cost and all that. So if we would have just not had that on there, it would have made the lives easier. Prices and goals matter. So like everyone's going to think through their head about like, why is this price the way it is, and is it a good deal? And maybe you didn't think about it as much as they did. So you just want to think about like, what are the questions people are going to ask about how you set your goals, and if you'll be able to answer those questions. You will get bombarded from everywhere, even if it's a small one. Like you're just going to get bombarded through their messaging system, through Twitter and through Facebook, if it really takes off. So just be prepared from a time perspective to deal with that. Create lists, so you're going to be having constant information coming in. You're not going to be able to handle it all necessarily at that time, so creating lists and kind of documenting things is super important. Kickstarters are typically hot at the beginning and hot at the ends and cold in the middle. So the beginning can be a barometer for its success and let you know kind of how much you're going to have to kind of drum up activity throughout the middle, and then finally you'll get a big spike at the end. And a lot of that has to do with just natural press progressions. You watch baseball season at the beginning and you watch it at the end. It's the same kind of thing. It's just when people are most interested. Kickstarter's control panel is very helpful. You can't actually see what's there, but just know that if you're thinking about launching a Kickstarter, once you get in, there's this like analytics tool set, kind of like Google Analytics for Kickstarter. It's very helpful to help you run the campaign. You will be blogging a lot. Whether or not you actually have a blog, the Kickstarter update system when you're sending out updates to people is the same as writing a blog. So be prepared to spend 3 hours every time you send out a piece of communication, thinking through it, thinking about all the different people you're addressing. And you want to have a content calendar. You want to have a schedule because you will get kind of caught up in caught up in the process and forget to do things. So having a content calendar is important. And be ready to improvise. So coming up with new ideas as you go along, coming up with different ideas on how to kind of come up with cool marketing techniques or stories that are going to excite your audience. And then building some hype beforehand is important. Yeah, go ahead.
When you say your prices and goals, did you do like create some mechanism to beta test those before you actually?
We did have among our inside network, we passed that around a lot, and then yeah, so we did make changes to our packages throughout the process, which you can do. You can add new packages as you go along. And we did a lot of beta testing with those. Like, so we added a bunch of teacher packages where we gave away like 10 copies for $100. We did a lot of like outreach to our teachers to figure out like what their price threshold was. So yeah, once one of your giveaways has at least one donation, you can't change it. It's like locked in, but you can add more as you go. Yep.
Do you feel like it's smart halfway through the campaign to reassess packages that are not doing well?
So we launched with 15 packages. It ranged anywhere from $10 to $10,000. So like for $10 you got the game, for $25 you got the game and a pre-printed sketch pack. For $50 you got a T-shirt, so on and so forth. There were definitely, after the first week, we were at around $20,000, and there was a number of packages that had no takes, no one paid. So we did do some analysis of the different packages, what was working, why they weren't, and kind of, yeah, you can do that in kind of real time. But again, the one thing is like once somebody gives to one package, the text is locked in, the pricing is locked in, there's nothing you can do. So you do want to do a lot of thought beforehand as much as possible before you get it out there.
What about the limit for a certain package? It says like 100 people can contribute. Mm-hmm. Can you change that number?
Yeah, you can. That is the one thing you can change. So there's a limit. You can put limits on packages. So the way we used it, and a lot of people do, is like an early bird. So you can say like, the game was $10, but then we did 400 early birds, or for $6, the first people to give money for cheaper. You can actually change those values. I think you can actually add limits to things that didn't have limits too.
Now, I know in the beginning that it wasn't product driven as far as Kickstarter was concerned when it came to the rewards, but it has kind of migrated to that. So you put a lot of thought and emphasis on the reward itself in order to drive the donation. But you think that in like being a social entrepreneur that can't say kind of value or that that's going to create the donation itself is the burden.
I want to answer. This is an interesting question, but I'm not sure I totally understand what you're asking. So maybe you could clarify.
Well,
and then I'll tell you.
Kickstarter, there's been a couple of failures with or mistakes on Kickstarter when people haven't been able to deliver. And the biggest one is the big story about the watch, the couple watch.
Right.
They haven't been able to deliver. So supposedly they're trying to get away from the purpose being so product oriented themselves. Launching products.
Yeah, one thing, so she's asking about just like the risk of actually being able to deliver and like should the platform be.
That's not what I'm asking.
Oh.
I am saying it's as if your donations are completely driven by your purpose. I thought it was more about, just the excitement.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, are you talking about Kickstarter in general or this one in particular?
Yeah. Social entrepreneurs are not going to work on Kickstarter. So.
Yeah, so I think one of the running jokes about Kickstarter is that it's actually Kick Finisher, not Kickstarter. You'll hear a lot of people say that like most companies are doing well. It's like they pretty much are ready to go with their product and they're just trying to use it as a resale platform. And it's kind of happening that way, for good or for bad. So for the true entrepreneurs like startups, like it's actually more challenging because people really are just expecting to be able to get what they wanted and get quickly. We had a 6 or 7 month time window on ours, and people were like, "Why do I have to wait 6 months for it?" They want it now. So I think that the platform is really just going that way, whether we like it or not.
But not necessarily other platforms.
But yeah, I haven't explored the other ones. I mean, for us, again, we chose it because of its traction. So yeah, I don't think people look at it as a donation box. The people that are giving more than $150, because once you get over 150, you start getting diminishing returns on the actual value. Those are the people that are giving, and we had a lot of people give a lot of money. But so it's a little bit. It can be a little bit of both, but you're addressing two markets there.
What was your reward for the 10,000?
It was so classic video games. There's a code where you hit up, down, left, right, VA start, and it gives you 100 lives in the game. It's called the Contra code, the Konami code. And literally the day before we launched, I sent out an email to some friends. I was like, "Does anybody have an idea what to give away for $10,000?" Because someone come to St. Louis and hanging out with me isn't that cool. So someone was like, "Oh, you should have the Konami code of PixelPress." So it's like the idea is like you can come up with your version of what the Konami code is, the input, and also what it does. And I'll admit that we didn't have like some random person give us $10,000, but someone that I know very well that had planned on backing and decided to back a lot more than they originally decided because they were excited about the project, and this is like the donation piece we're talking about. Had no interest in coming up with this idea, so they kind of donated to the community. So 2 days before the end of Kickstarter, we put out the message board like, "Hey, submit ideas on the message board for this code, and whoever comes up with the best idea, the person that gave the money will select that code," and so on and so forth. So yeah, I don't know. That's a really important question. I think the things to take away is like Kickstarter really is kind of kick finisher, but it also can be a social donation platform at some of the higher tiers. You just got to have the lower tiers in there. So the pre-hype piece, just funny quick story. We had The Verge and Joystick, which are two big tech publications, lined up to write about us on the Tuesday of our launch. And one of the guys decided to publish his article on Friday before our launch. And I called up the guy at The Verge, and I was like, "Hey, Joystick published the article. I still want you guys to hold out on Tuesday because we can't launch before Tuesday because we got to get some stuff together." And he's like, "No, I'm putting that article out today. There's no way I'm waiting," because they wanted to be first to the punch. So we had both those articles go on Friday, and we were like, "Oh man, we screwed up." We had all this momentum that we could have had on our launch day, but we ended up getting about 600 email signups between that Friday and that Tuesday, and we were able to use those 600 email signups because they're all people that wanted to back. We kind of spent like sign up here and we'll let you know when Kickstarter goes live. So I don't know how it would have worked out differently, but we had all these people that in their heads they were trying to give money on that Tuesday versus where maybe if they would have read that article. So the point was we could have done a lot more pre-hype. We planned on doing no pre-hype. It worked out well for us in terms of like getting that momentum early on. And momentum's really big. I mean, people will respond to momentum. So we did $9,000 on the first day, that really got our momentum going. We thought we were going to be done in 10 days, but I was still excited. Yeah.
How far ahead did you start working with this publication? Get that article?
About 2 months. Yeah, I started sending out emails 2 months in advance, and I was getting a really high return rate on responses, and I was like decided to like stop doing that because I knew that if I kept doing it, someone was just going to write about it. We were trying to like build up press. So about a week out, we started that process again and told them like, "Hey, this Kickstarter's coming out," and they don't want to write about it early. If the Kickstarter's coming out in a week, if it's 2 months, they won't write about it potentially.
What did you use to collect emails? Was that like Launch Rock or something, or?
MailChimp.
Okay.
So intangible things, definitely thinking about you. That's that people want. People don't want to support companies. I don't think about Kickstarter so much unless it's just like they want to spend $100 because they actually want to buy that product. I think that's the thing that we did the best is like I just put my face all over it, put my kid's face on it, and all that type of stuff. People really like wanted to help me to make this successful, so that helped a lot. And that included people I knew that may not have planned on giving, and then people that you're going to be stressed. You're not going to sleep. That was my experience because it was, I did have a lot riding on it, not necessarily financially, but just emotionally and wanting it to happen. and wanting to work on this project. So note that if you approach it that way, it will be stressful. You can't do another job, in my opinion, even if it is your job. So if your boss is asking you to do Kickstarter for your company, make sure that he understands that's the only thing you're going to be working on. Everyone you know will support you, even if they don't back you. Definitely, everyone was super excited about what I was doing, and I've heard other people tell similar stories along those lines. So that was really helpful. Set expectations with your family up front. I had an 8-month-old at the time, our first, and talked with my wife long about just the idea of putting this idea on Kickstarter because it wasn't necessarily the only way to go. And just having set those expectations up front with family in that sense helped a lot because it's going to be time consuming. Hit the streets. This is some advice that I got from a number of people. Happy Badger Studios had done a Kickstarter about a month before we did ours, and I sat down with them, and this is one piece of advice they gave us, among some others, and a lot of other people. Like, actually getting out in the community isn't going to get you necessarily like 20 people from that meeting, but one person might give you, $500, that type of thing, or maybe they're going to tell somebody about it. So I think from a volume perspective, getting out on the streets of St. Louis doesn't help, but just getting the right people talking about it and potentially getting someone to really help you, it increases that likelihood. And you want to get users excited, so keep them excited throughout the process with new ideas, new things, what you're doing, photos, videos, all that type of stuff. It's definitely constant process. And then finally, you want to have a purpose. So this kind of relates to it being about you. Like, your users want to know that you're doing this for a reason. We talked about that a little bit earlier. That's a big part of the process. So it works really well whenever you can meet those criteria. So I did an article near the end with my top 5 tips, so I can just share those with you. We found that press only has a value on Kickstarter for about 4 hours. Like, you literally get a bunch of people donating for about 4 hours, and then it goes away. So just don't. That's why you got to get so many and keep it going. Like, if you're going to raise a bunch of money, it needs to be like a constant barrage of articles to really raise a lot of money on Kickstarter. Again, my experience. Keep the energy up. We talked about that. So just constantly making a few people feel like you're excited to have them on board and excited to get more people on board and all that. I think it's a big part of it is the energy, and which relates to no sleep. Stay away from the trolls. People are going to be negative about your idea. Decide how you want to respond to that, which is not responding at all.
Right.
Develop real relationships. Again, Happy Badger, Ben and the team kind of really helped me focus on this. Like, this whole thing is about developing relationships. If you guys have ever been in an experience where you're trying to raise funds for anything, it's about developing relationships and being sincere and all those types of things, and it'll pay off as you go along. So plan on trying to make a lot of friends if you're going to run a Kickstarter. And then finally, you're going to want to create content on the fly. So content is king with anything that you do, especially with Kickstarter. You're compressing a year's worth of your company's blogs and tweets and all that junk down into 30 days. And you've got to constantly stay on top of it and constantly innovate, constantly come up with ideas. So this image here on the right is this is Minecraft. So this is the game where essentially you start off in this world with trees and rocks, and you mine these trees and rocks, and you can then combine those into tools, and then you combine all that into buildings, and you can create amazing things in this really old school looking 3D world. It's hugely popular. And near the end, we had a couple people be like, hey, I want to build PixelPress in Minecraft. So we started this hashtag, PixelPress in Minecraft. People started creating levels in this game, and they actually made them work. So these platforms actually move up and down, and we got kind of there's message boards out there with thousands of users, and people were talking about PixelPress on these message boards, and this whole thing just kind of came out of nowhere, and was a really big part of us being successful at the end and kind of driving to the end, because there was all these people that understood our product, we were kind of drawing relationships and all that. And it was all user-generated content. So we had a couple blog posts that kind of shared what people were creating, but it really, really made a big difference. So I get asked about like press tips. I get asked a lot, like, how did you get 120 articles in 30 days from like Forbes and NBC and The Verge and Engadget? Wait, not forget Engadget. Bunch of different ones. What happened with Engadget? I don't know. A lot of people told me they were going to write articles. So I think the first thing you want to do is like put yourself in the press's shoes. Like, this is such an obvious one, but like, why does anyone give a shit about your product? You know, including the press. Like, if they don't care, then they're not going to write about it. And we were so lucky in that, like, all these 35-year-old people just like me happened to work for these publications and really thought my product was cool. And like, that was really, you know, what it made it happen for. So there's no email format that you can use or special magic that you can use to talk somebody into writing about your product. It's just a matter of whether they think it's cool. And luckily we had a universal appeal, but that doesn't mean that your little product that majority of people out there don't give a crap about, that doesn't mean that there's not still a small community that don't care about it. So then it's a matter of like, how do I find those press people? So we had the luxury of not really having to look very hard, just like sending out a couple emails. But you know, if your product is more niche, there are people that want to write about it, but they're thinking about their audience and like, does our audience care? So like, if you have like a mom product, you know, mommy bloggers, that's an obvious one. So the bottom line here is like, if you're counting on press, which I think you need to count on press to make your Kickstarter project successful, and it's a niche product, you're going to have a lot of work to do to kind of make that happen. So because it's a Kickstarter, that also hurts because press are tired about writing about Kickstarters. They feel like it's fluff in a lot of ways. So if your product isn't super novel, maybe even if it is appropriate for that demographic, I think you're going to have a hard time getting that press. So I don't know, this is starting to become a negative slide, but just telling you guys kind of how I look at it. And this could probably apply to your business in general. It's probably not just Kickstarter. Write every outbound message by hand. Like, a lot of people might advise you to create a template. Like for me, because it was happening on the fly, like I felt like I was always coming up with new ideas on what to say or what to ask for or how to kind of bait them a little bit. Like with the Minecraft thing, I could be like, oh yeah, by the way, check it out, these people are creating this stuff on Minecraft. Bottom line is, like, I would not subscribe to the template model when it comes to hitting press. I would write everyone personally. Maybe refer to an article you saw that they wrote, just giving them a little bit of praise. That's helpful. So yeah, I think. Oh yeah, so timing, links, and tweets. I mean, these guys are very busy, so don't be afraid to just say, hey, will you make sure you link to this page? Will you make sure you guys tweet about it? And will you make sure that you put it out not at 9 p.m. at night? Timing of the articles is really important. I found that if it's not between like 8 and 12 Eastern, then it really doesn't do very well for you. It seems like the entire working community checks the internet during the morning. Like all of our backings came between 8 and 12 Eastern. All of our good press came between 8 and 12 Eastern, and those are on weekdays too. So yeah, the internet's alive between 8 and 12 on weekdays, and it's kind of dead from at least our perspective outside of that. So one of our big articles was on Pando Daily, and it went out at like 5 p.m. on like a Thursday, and we got like no traffic from it whatsoever because it kind of just got lost in the mix. Yeah.
Did you have a press kit? Did you find that the press ended up using it?
Yeah, we did have a press kit. It was kind of hard to find. We definitely, press definitely want the press kit. Yeah, make it super obvious where it is. You can put a link in the main navigation that says press kit. When it comes to press, no one cares about the middle of your Kickstarter project. They only want to write about it at the beginning or the end. So plan on focusing before your Kickstarter on getting press, and then near the end, kind of re-engaging that press to rewrite about you or getting new ones. But you're going to have a hard time unless you're like hitting major milestones in the middle to get press. We did create some things ourselves, like we had a contest. We released a prototype. We did a number of other promotions that got like more niche press interested. So we kind of created like mini campaigns within our Kickstarter throughout the process, so that helped. But in general, it's pretty tough without those things. And then along the lines of the prototype, give the press something to covet to make them feel like that they're actually getting something special from you to write about will help a lot. So if you've got like this key publication that you want to target, tell them it's going to be the first article. Make sure it actually is the first article. Tell them they're getting access to a prototype. Tell them they're getting unique content. Those things can really help. Again, this is probably applicable to anything, not just Kickstarter. But there are people just like us, and they want to feel appreciated and those types of things. So this image here is just a picture of our very first prototype application, and we got we connected with Popular Science with this, and we've actually got an actual written article coming out of Popular Science in September. So super excited about that one.
So print magazine's not great for Kickstarter.
Not unless it's maybe the Riverfront Times and it comes out quickly. I don't know. Yeah, definitely not. We were like, so yeah, I mean, they wanted to write an article. We're like, could you do a blog post too? And then we talked to the blog people. And I don't know if that would ever end up coming out, but it was part of this strategy. All right, so I'm getting into the end here.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
What was your biggest publications, and what was that you got traction from, and what was the breakdown about podcasts versus print?
The biggest publications were, I don't know, we had Forbes and The Verge and Mashable, Pando Daily, and NBC News. I don't know, guys, any help here?
That depends from a gaming perspective. Joystick,
Kotaku,
they're pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the game hours. It was actually 120 articles over the 35 or something.
Did the hype of those names match with how much traction or how much?
Yeah, definitely. The video game blogs, so Kickstarter actually tells you how much money you get from each inbound link. To a certain degree, I mean, if you don't come directly to the site, then you can't track it. But we got like $7,000 from the Joystick article. We ended up having 2 or 3 Joystick articles, I think, but overall, like that publication equated to $7,000.
But that'll sorry to jump in. That's very interesting because from the NBC article that you would think NBC, holy crap, we got
yeah, the NBC article
nothing,
didn't gain us money.
So it's very contextual to what you're doing.
Yeah. And then, the NBC wasn't on NBC's homepage necessarily. It was tied to NBC name, so there's a lot of different factors. But yeah, so I'm kind of going into the summary, and guys keep asking questions about what to let you know that this doesn't go on forever. So if I did it again, I'd avoid setting such a high goal. We actually found out during the last week of Kickstarter, we came across this Kickstarter stats page, and there's only been 600 projects to raise $100,000 or more ever.
Wow.
And we're like, oh. Maybe we shouldn't have said that. But at the same time, we felt like that's the amount of money we needed to make the project actually happen. So there was a reason that we set it that high. The point being, a lot of times you'll see companies that have the luxury of saying, hey, we'll do this for $20,000, even though it's going to cost way more than that. They'll shoot up to $500,000 because people generally want to buy something they know they're going to get. They're not giving money to help you reach your goal necessarily in most cases. They're giving you the money because they want the product, and there's a little bit of, hey, if I don't get money, I'm not going to get it. But ultimately, once they hit that goal, it really seems to shoot up. So if you have the luxury of setting a lower goal but having a higher expectation, you might want to consider doing that. So if I did this project again, I'd still set it at 100, but if I do another project, I would think about that differently. Avoid adding stretch goals early. I told you guys about that. Setting the timeline. We did the timeline for 37 days, so that it would end at E3, which is Electronic Entertainment Expo in LA, which is one of the biggest video game conferences. So we set it at 37 days. I think just from a health perspective, don't set it for any longer than you have to. It was draining for sure. So yeah, I think 30 days is a good place. You can go up to 60. You can do it as little as 1 and then up to 60. Ending during an event. So we did end it at E3, and I actually, received some advice later on not to end it during an event, especially a video game event, because you're going to be competing for press eyeballs and all that. So the fact that no one really wanted to write about our project at the end, not because they didn't care, but just because they were writing about Xbox. So yeah, we thought it was a good strategy, and ended up being a poor strategy. Not having a demo earlier, so we got beat up pretty bad early on. It's like, hey, this can't be done. It's too magical, or hey, you guys, are promising something you can't deliver on. Not so much that. Just kind of like, I need to see something to let me know it's real. Like, who knows if we would have had our demo on day 1 versus day, 2 days from the end. We released the demo 2 days from the end. What it could have done for our product, for our Kickstarter. Again, there's nothing we could have done about it. This all happened very quickly, but I think having a demo of your product, if it's a digital product, can help a lot. And then limiting the user base. What does that mean?
Are you thinking iOS versus Android?
iOS versus. Oh yeah. Nice. We limited the number of people that could buy our product because we did just iOS. So we underestimated. We didn't underestimate the number. We know that there's more Androids out there than
Exactly right.
We're iOS developers, so it's kind of like, what can we do? We can build iOS apps. But we did. We basically chopped off one of our arms early on by not having that in there. We fixed it halfway through. We basically pulled in one of our stretch goals so that people knew that it was coming and all that type of stuff. But if you can not limit, if you can close or remove barriers, then it's going to help a lot. The other thing about, one thing we didn't realize is video game people, passionate video game people actually tend to be more Android than iPhone based. Mm-hmm. That was something that didn't really acknowledge. Even though my brother-in-law will never own an iPhone because he's just anti-Apple. I ignored that fact. The biggest video game guy I know. If I did it again, I'd be sure to. I did make it personal. I would make it personal again. Great photography and video. That was an asset to our project. I think it was important for people to, get excited about it. I see a lot of projects out there that don't have good videos, don't have good photography, and it's just hard for people to kind of relate to the project whenever they can't get excited about it because you didn't put the time into, glorifying it to some degree. Get a lot of help. Definitely do that again. Planned support. So we had a lot of people that told us they were going to back our project, personal connections that we had, people that had varying amount of wealth that we were counting on helping us out. And ultimately we wouldn't have hit our goal if we wouldn't have been able to rally our entire community around that. So that was helpful. So I think you just knowing that you're going to get help from places, and then knowing how to communicate with those people and help them and basically sell them on the idea is a big part of this. Everyone that I talk to, the big guys out there that are raising money, all of them are getting donations from industry people that really want to see that project, and that is very much like a social donation piece of this project that is going to let you hit high goals. Like, you're not going to hit $100,000 by selling $10,000 $10 giveaways. I just don't think that's going to happen. With all of the press that we had, we still couldn't achieve that. So it's good to kind of pull triggers on that. Yep.
Do you think there was any strategic timing during that 30 days having them contribute?
Definitely. We knew that we had people like St. Louis University, for example, created a grant out of thin air and gave $2,000 to our project. Because I went to school there and I was part of the entrepreneurship program, and they believed in me and they wanted to support me and help me be successful. And I could have waited to the end to kind of make that happen. I kind of knew that it was kind of out there and that we were talking about it. If we would have waited to the end, then we wouldn't have the benefit of momentum when we needed momentum in the middle, because we didn't have it, because it's hard to have momentum on Kickstarter in the middle. So pulling the triggers on some of those opportunities at the time we did really helped us kind of show progression all the way, which kept our people excited, and ultimately people kept tweeting and Facebooking because they were excited. If they see just stagnation and nothing to tweet about, nothing to talk about, it all kind of compounds there.
So you think holding those in the middle is probably the...
I don't know. Maybe I just think you just need to be aware of them, and maybe if we would have pulled the trigger on those all at the beginning, then maybe who knows? It's relative to your goal too. I think too. Like how close are you to your goal? Do more outreach. I didn't do a ton of outreach. We visited classrooms. I just did this last week, but so it was a little late. But did a Skype call with these kids in the classroom, and they asked me about it and all this type of stuff. And I think they thought I was like a superstar because I saw the videos and all that. So that was cool. Just more of that type of stuff. I mean, it's very time consuming, but it really paid off more than I would have ever expected. And promotions, just like pure promotions, like contests and all that type of stuff, really helped us a lot. So we would definitely do as many of those types of things as we can. Kickstarter has this like no contest thing, but everyone seems to do it anyway, so you want to kind of be careful there. But contests can come in many different forms. So the last thing I'll say, and I do want to open up for questions, is just like, why are you doing anything? I think really applies to Kickstarter. Like, what is the reason you're doing, the passion? I stayed up till 2 a.m. for 2 months before the Kickstarter went live, and then it was much later than that throughout the entire Kickstarter. And I've done a lot of projects where I'll like do that for a couple weeks and then it kind of burn out. I feel like there's no way I could have like maintained that momentum on a personal level if I didn't really want to draw Mario levels. I create a product to draw Mario levels. Like that's what this project's all about. In a why sense, it's like, why are you doing this? So I think with anything you guys are doing, it from an entrepreneurial startup perspective, I've had a lot of ideas that I've kind of burnt myself out on. This one in particular has survived for 6 months because I have a reason to like stay up until really late every night and work on it. So yeah, just ask yourself like why, and I think it's just that much more important for a Kickstarter because you're compressing a marketing challenge down into such a short time frame, unlike a typical business where it's a little bit more comfortable experience. So just be prepared for that. So a couple Twitter handles up here, the guys involved in our team, and website address and all that. This Twitter is just PixelPress Game.com, shouldn't be on there. So yeah, that's my story, and love to any other questions. Yeah.
With the people who kind of pre-pledge to you money up front before you had launched, do you think there's any benefit to asking those people to donate at a specific time, like say in the middle when it is kind of momentum loss?
Yes, but also a lot of those people ended up giving more than they had originally. Like no one I talked to was like, I'm going to give you any more than $100, But then it ended up like they give like 2,000. So the same process that I went through with all of my normal backers and getting them excited about it and them believing, that process happened with those people too. So it's just a matter of personal like understanding of that person. Yeah.
So now that you've raised this initial capital, is your plan to try to do a bit larger VC round of funding? And if so, was that your plan from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that this thing was going to cost a lot more than $100,000 to build from the beginning. We felt like we could bootstrap it. We still can bootstrap it if we need to. But we also didn't know that so many people cared about this product either, so we've got a lot of validation from this. Beyond the $100,000, I mean, partner discussions and investment interest and all that. It goes way beyond. Like this thing opened up doors for us like you would never believe across the entire world, not just the country. So yeah, we are raising money.
Was that part of your original pitch when you were kickstarting that said, hey, if you donate, we'll be able to raise money, or was that?
No, it wasn't part of it at all. We weren't trying to say like we're going to have to raise follow-on money to build this. It's just a matter like when you're building a game or anything, like what's the quality level going to be? Like we could build this for $100K, but the quality level would be low to really actualize the vision and make this real company. We have to raise the bar, so raising money will be part of that. Yep.
I noticed you use Mario and a bunch of other games that
we already know.
Yep.
What were the licensing issues that you had to go through? I'm sure that they want something.
To actually have their stuff in the game, like so none of this stuff would be in the actual game as of right now. In terms of like we don't, we're not just gonna use their stuff. As far as like using, their videos and kind of like stealing some of their branding concepts for some of our promotional pieces. I don't think it's going to be an issue. I hope not. I'm not too worried about it.
I was just, because when I watch it, I'm thinking, oh wow, I used to like Mario.
Yep.
If I get the game, then I get to use Mario. But
yep.
I'm saying that I get the game, since you don't have a license with whoever made Mario, I can actually build Mario.
You can draw Mario into it, and you can create your own assets for this.
You can draw your own stuff.
Yeah, so you can create your own assets. Like we're going to provide pre-designed assets, but you can create your own and upload them, and then we'll just have to deal with like, can that get out to the community or not?
It can just be me. I can draw myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can create it all yourself. So you can. I mean, there's tons of websites out there where you can like take these assets and like build it all yourself. So then it's just a question of can that specific level be submitted to the public community or not. But then we're also working with various organizations to actually obtain the rights to IP. So that's a big part of this is like, because there is such a strong nostalgia value to this, having that IP in the game is important to us actualizing the product vision. So that's part of something that we're working on.
Yeah. So the job that you were suddenly not working for, have you switched over yet?
Yeah. So that was a very amicable process. I let my company know beforehand that I was working on this thing many months beforehand. Not everyone within the company, but the right people within the company. And I set expectations beforehand of launching the Kickstarter, and then we kind of worked through the process of working through that, and I am focusing on this full time now.
So is there a particular time of the year that would seem to work better for Kickstarter?
Good question. I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, if you have a product that you're going to deliver a month from the end and it's Christmas, I think that could have a positive effect. Definitely, people like the fact that this is going to be available in December because they're going to be buying their kids iPads and all that type of stuff. That's not really related to our timing. I haven't seen or heard anyone say anything along those lines, so I think it's all just about your product. So, Bill?
Your former employer, they spit out products. Did you think about partnering with them?
Yeah, we talked about it a lot. I think it's just a matter of like, is your idea consistent with the vision of that company? Because every company is trying to do something specific. So, yeah.
I've seen a couple of books about Kickstarter in Amazon.com. Have you bought any of them? So
I read a lot of books about like the Eric Ries's The Lean Startup is one of my favorites. I didn't read anything about Kickstarter. I definitely got a lot of people telling me like, don't hire a Kickstarter consultant. I definitely think I have a lot of advice to give people. I would never charge for it for sure. I think it's just like when you're doing a Kickstarter, you're already cash strapped. Probably, I don't recommend adding capital to the situation because every project's so unique. I mean, all this advice and all my experience probably wouldn't apply necessarily to something I was doing different. Depending on what you're trying to do. Any other questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
Can you just quickly go back to you were explaining the MVP concept?
Yeah, sure.
Tell me a lot more about that.
A lot. So Eric Ries, R-E-I-S, R-I-E-S, R-I? Okay. He has a book called The Lean Startup. He's formed this kind of movement around the concept of focusing on building minimum viable products. I don't think that MVP applies to everything. In terms of just methodology of building a product, it doesn't always apply in every case, but in a lot of cases, especially with a startup, as an entrepreneur, you only have so much money, and you need to validate every step of the process, otherwise you can spend a bunch of money on something that you shouldn't have spent it on. So we took the MVP approach in terms of like just purely validating that someone cares about the idea before we ever started building. And then you just have to set a threshold for yourself, like how much validation do I need? And you need to be able to do that quickly. You can't like drag your feet. But read the book; it's really good. just to kind of like go through that concept.
On a related note, have you read the Startup Voters Manual?
I think I have it.
So it's on the same.
Yeah, I haven't read it. No.
About the MVP, a lot of people say it's got to actually be a product, but for me, I'd say your MVP was basically your video, your demo video that you put out.
Yeah, the demo video
just
was
anything that you could get your hooks in people's brains that says, to validate it. You guys had 2,500 people validate your minimal viable product, which is just a video.
And then listen.
Yeah.
So to do some more name dropping, Jonathan Leake and Michael Orlando with IDC Projects were the first people outside of my friends that I talked to about this project, and they were like, hey, you should just create a video, make it awesome, and share it with some people. And I was like, yeah, you're not telling me anything I don't know, but that's really what I should be doing right now. And that's what we did, and it was just like a snowball effect from there. It's like, kind of just went.
About your stretch goal,
Uh-huh.
you said not to do it too early.
Not to. We put all of our stretch goals on our Kickstarter page right at the beginning, like all the way up to like $250,000, I think. Like I would add like, once you get halfway to your goal, add the first one maybe to kind of like show people what your vision is for that one, and then kind of add them as you go along, just so you're not opening yourself up to more questions about things that don't really, aren't so pertinent at the time. That's my feedback on it. It comes down to your product. Like if you're selling blue shirts and you're talking about maybe selling green and orange shirts, and people want to understand that you're selling more, maybe it makes sense to put them all out there right away. But then it's all about like how much the difference is too. So I think the bottom line is just be careful about what information you put out there if you don't want to deal with like what it means to the user in terms of their donations.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Robin. He told me yesterday or this morning that he had a 20-minute presentation, and I'm glad that he went a little deeper because that was pretty badass. So thank you so much. And a great
Dylan liked it.
I think PixelPress is really going to. I mean, already the game development scene in St. Louis is on fire. But PixelPress is going to bring it to a whole new level. So it's going to really make the city known for gamers. So I think it's great stuff. Really quickly, Code Until Dawn, last Friday of the month at Locker Dome. And then next month, we'll be here on Tuesday, August 20th. We got Dan Lohman from Lab 1500 and Cubicle.com. And he's going to talk to us all about building a 6-figure e-commerce store and a 7-figure e-commerce store. And we'll also have Scarlett Garnet, the Etsy store with a storefront down in Cherokee, talking about selling crafts and jewelry and trying to build a little micro business. So should be good. Tuesday, August 20th. What else? What's it? Oh yeah, we'll have a tour. So if you want to get a tour of the building, meet us up here in 5 minutes. If you want to talk to me about what I'm doing or get advice on your startup, I'm going to hang out as long as people are here. And join us at plus.startlouis.com. Thanks, everybody.